Well, now, Labour launched an attack on what it calls tax havens this weekend. Ed Miliband says if he becomes Prime Minister, he will put UK overseas territories on an international blacklist if they do not cooperate with his drive against tax avoidance. Well, one of those overseas territories is Gibraltar. Its Chief Minister is Fabian, Picardo, and he joins me now on Skype. And a very good morning to you, Chief Minister. Well, how do you respond to that charge from Ed Miliband? You preside over a tax haven.
Well, I've already responded to Leader of the Opposition. I've written to him this morning. I'm sure he will have been very, very disappointed, in fact, that I had to read his letter in the Guardian newspaper and that I haven't, in fact, yet received his detailed communication. But I think it's important to be very discerning about what Gibraltar really represents. Gibraltar is not just an overseas territory. It's also an important part of the European Union. And therefore, the standards that apply in respect of financial services and their provision from Gibraltar are exactly the same standards that apply in respect of London, in respect of Frankfurt, and the rest of the European Union. And therefore, it's quite unfair to characterise Gibraltar as a tax haven. And the Prime Minister himself, recently in Parliament, was very clear in saying that the overseas territories, Gibraltar included, are not to be characterised as tax havens, and that statement met with warm support, including from the Labour benches.
Well, so presumably you've made those points in that letter, Mr. Picardo. What happens, though, if you do end up on an OECD blacklist?
Well, I think it's very unlikely. I'll tell you why, Dermot. Gibraltar is an EU member, not as an EU member state, as a territory that is subject to EU law through the United Kingdom, will be implementing what is known as the Fourth Anti-Money Laundering Directive during the course of the next couple of years. That directive is likely to be adopted in September this year, and the transpositional period is expected to be 2 years. And what that directive requires us to do is to set up a central register, exactly what it is that the Leader of the Opposition is now talking about. So the 28 member states, the United Kingdom included, will be subject to this directive and will be applying it within the measure that is allowed of latitude by Brussels. We intend to apply it by the creation of a central register, which will not be public, and many other member states of the European Union will be doing the same thing. It appears from Mr. Miliband's letter that his view, he becomes Prime Minister, is that there shall be a central register in the United Kingdom, which shall also be public. So Mr. Miliband, I'm sure, is not saying that he's going to create a blacklist of all those who have a central register, whether or not that central register is public. So if I find myself in the company of Germany, Spain and France on a blacklist, that won't be an uncomfortable place to be.
All right. But, Mr. Picardo, if Mr. Miliband does become Prime Minister, there's another important concern, isn't there, concerning Gibraltar, and that is the disputes and territorial claim by Spain. Do you feel that Mr. Miliband would not be minded to protect the territory as adequately in your book as he should?
Well, let's look at it this way, if you want to talk about that subject. Ed Miliband leads the Labour Party, and I lead the Labour Party in Gibraltar, and ours are sister parties. It was the Labour Party in the United Kingdom under Tony Blair who wanted to consider the possibility of joint sovereignty. The people of Gibraltar gave the Blair administration a very bloody nose indeed when it came to that issue, with 99% voting in favour of remaining British. And it was the Labour Party thereafter that created what is now known as the double lock, which means that Spain will not get a chance to even discuss the sovereignty of Gibraltar with the United Kingdom government without the consent of the government of Gibraltar, let alone see a transfer of sovereignty. That Labour pledge in government has been entirely maintained by the Conservative Liberal coalition, and this is now an issue that all the political parties in the United Kingdom have rallied behind. So I have absolutely no concerns in that respect.
But do you feel you're getting it on both fronts, though, now, given that territorial dispute? We know that Spain has issues. Spain has characterised Gibraltar in much the same terms as Mr. Miliband, as a tax haven, as sheltering tax avoiders.
Absolutely, and it's the only one of the member states of the European Union that has done so. Germany, France, with whom we have tax information exchange agreements, don't do so. We've offered Spain a tax information exchange agreement. We know why Spain characterises Gibraltar as a tax haven, because she wants to do so in the context of the wider plan to take over our sovereignty. But in the code group of the EU, which is the group that looks at tax in detail throughout the member states, we enjoy the support of all member states, the United Kingdom included, except Spain. 27-1 is a score that I don't mind.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Very good to talk to you there. Fabian Picardo, Chief Minister of Gibraltar.